Welcome, everybody, to Beyond Moon, a crypto wealth series. I am joined by a dear friend and incredibly knowledgeable man in this field, Mr. Crytopolis. Say hey, Dave.
Hey, Jerry, how's it going?
It's going really well. So, this being our first episode, we really wanted to present a case for why is it important to prepare for this possible windfall of profits that's going to come from your crypto investment. You know, it reminds me of an adage, this old quote: if you're not busy preparing for success, you're actually busy preparing to fail. And we want all of you in this community and in this space to be successful when the market reacts as we've all anticipated it will. So with that being said, we'll go over some bullet points here of things that we'll elaborate on in the next minute or two. Those would be, why is this series valuable and who is going to benefit from it? We'll highlight what we've seen in the community. We call it the Lambo mentality. We'll present prior mistakes made by those who have actually received sudden wealth, and try to provide some tips to avoid these mistakes.
Exactly. So, unexpected and sudden wealth, whether it's from a crypto investment or even it could be from an inheritance, a lottery winning or a sale of a business or something, should be, it's a happy moment, but it also can be a very stressful one. And, the question is, and one of the reasons why we want to do this series is, will you be prepared when it comes? Why do the majority of lottery winners lose it all in a few years? Why do professional sports figures go bankrupt after making millions on the field? Why do people inherit large sums of money, typically don't grow it and don't preserve it for generations? It's not enough, just to make money or have money, but it's the decisions that you make with it that counts. And so, whether you are wealthy or you're going to be wealthy, or you may not expect it. And sometimes that's why we're calling this sudden wealth. It could happen when you least expect it. And we know that there's lots of people who, got wealthy in the 2017 run up in crypto assets. And we don't hear many stories about what happened to them afterwards. But it's an emotional time. And so when you get very emotional, especially when it comes to money, there's a lot of things that can happen, and mistakes that you could make, missteps, whatever you want to call it. It's an emotional time. And, most are not prepared. So this series is going to help you prepare for that. At least that's our goal.
Right on, Dave. One of the observations that many of us in this space have seen, it's this kind of, well, I call it the Lambo mentality. And what that means is that when you're taking that back of the envelope or bar napkin and doing the calculations, this is how many of this I have, and this is how many of that I have, and if the market reaches this, I'll have this much. To allow your thought process to go to, well, if I have this much, I can buy this and I can buy that and I can buy this because they're things that I've really always wanted. When you start to really break down how that can affect your livelihood, your asset value, your overall wealth, a year or 2 years or 3 years down the road, it can be quite substantial. So what we wanted to do is also reiterate to all of you that to think that you'll be immune to these pitfalls that countless others who've been in these situations before us, to think that just because you're knowledgeable of them that you will avoid them would be like saying, I know I'm a human being, but I'm not going to age like all the other human beings have. It'd be like discounting all this historical fact and all this evidence that human nature, doesn't matter what language you speak, very few of us are actually trained and prepared to deal with what's coming next. And perhaps, Dave, you could illustrate maybe some famous cases or something that, things that you're aware of that like illustrate this point.
Yeah, well said, Jerry. So we know that a lot of lottery winners, in one specific case, has been very public. And this was a lottery winner. Her name was Callie Rogers. She won 1.9 million British pounds, I believe.
Yeah.
And so after 10 years of holidays and buying designer clothes and loaning money to friends, she found herself at 26 years old with only $2,000 left in British pounds. So that to me is a missed opportunity. It's something that, she had this once in a lifetime chance to really get herself set for her entire life. And you can tell from the way she spent the money, how she utilized the money, that she wasn't thinking of the future. She was thinking about now. And that's one of the, I think, things that we want to try to avoid. But her story is just one of hundreds, maybe even thousands of people across the United States, across the world, who have won lotteries that have dissipated that wealth or invested in depreciating assets, or trying to think about the now instead of the future.
Sure. And so if she won, what'd you say it was, 1.9 million Great British? So that's almost 2 million, right? Almost 2 million British pounds as a late teenager, 18, 19, something like that?
Yeah, I think she was like 16 or 17 years old. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, she could have put herself in a position to live incredibly well for the rest of her life, and most likely not ever touch the principle she started with.
That's absolutely correct.
Yeah, crazy.
I don't know who was in her life at that time, but obviously at that age, emotions run even higher than when you get older. And so I guess our message is, let's, look at these stories and learn from them.
Right. I'm reminded of, because I grew up a sports fan and stuff like that. I'm reminded of the Mike Tyson story. This guy,
yeah.
Tyson, you've heard of him, right? Oh, yeah. This guy came on the scene and was just a wrecking ball. And quickly, I mean, within a year or two, maybe 2.5 years, at the height of this guy's career, he'd amassed like $300 million between endorsements and obviously the prizes from the prize fighting, right? The actual fights that he did. Mm-hmm. Then, so this guy took the route of, just extravagant spending. Here he was in his prime, making more money in his mind was not going to be an issue. And he spent like a drunken sailor. This guy was buying cars, and, he had that whole, what do they call it? Hooker's Lambo and blow kind of mentality, Fast forward to 2003, right? Still a young man with all kinds of potential. 2003, this guy actually had to file for bankruptcy. And in the bankruptcy documents, he was $23 million in debt.
Wow. That's crazy.
How does that happen? It's got to be the mentality. It's not the money.
Right, exactly. So I think that what people have to understand is that when sudden wealth happens, you become emotionally involved in the process of this sudden wealth, right? And it didn't seem to matter how much money he made. One of the fallacies of having sudden wealth or a lot of wealth in your life is that you think it will go on forever. And that's not really the case. So the factors that go into consideration when designing an individual plan for maximizing whatever wealth you come into, whether it's crypto or inheritance or whatever it might be, the first thing that comes to my mind is in both of these cases, they acted impulsively or too quickly to start spending the money that they had in their hand at the moment. And I think one thing that's really to keep in mind is that it is an emotional event. And so you need to take time to emotionally adjust to having this kind of wealth in the first place.
Absolutely. I'm going to piggyback on that with just one old saying. I used to get told this a lot by much older, wiser men. He said, "When in doubt, don't act out." You know what I mean? And those are good words to follow. And that particular saying leads me to think of this particular kind of concept or a tip. And that is, before the emotional engagement, the excitement, the emotions that come with wealth, is to be clear about what your goals are before that period of time. So for instance, for myself and for those of you out there that we're not wealthy from our investments yet, now is the time to get clear about what are the goals that we want our wealth to produce. You know, what are the results we want produced from our wealth? For this person, it can be this, and for that person, it can be that. But I think it would be fair to say that all of us would agree that our wealth is maintained throughout our life. I don't think anybody invested in this space who's looking to be wealthy from their investment in this space, or for that matter, for in any space, with the thinking that, okay, I'm going to make this and I'm going to spend it in 5 years, and then I'll just go back to work and go back to my old life. I don't think that goal or desire is on anybody's radar. So a quick example of a goal would be, like, I'll use this as a personal one for me. I want my crypto wealth to maintain its value throughout my life while producing an income that I can live in a extremely comfortable manner. You know, technically, I'd like to get anywhere from $8,000 to $10,000 a month as an income while not degrading my principal capital from the investment. So I'd like the millions to be working over here, generating me an income, so I maintain all that capital and have an incredible life as a result of it.
Yeah, I think that's important, is that you have some metrics that you're going to be, you know, that will guide you on the path that you need in order to preserve capital, to preserve the kind of lifestyle that you want. I related this story on another channel that my parents had invested in a fund. And I was living in Boston at the time, and I read an article about the fund. The fund, actually, what they were doing, they had promised a certain return every single month to those who invested in the fund. What they didn't tell, and the article came out, was that they weren't getting the return on that fund that they had anticipated. And so instead of paying out from the interest or the dividends to the fund holders, they were actually paying out in equity. So you were getting your money back in equity. And I called my parents and I told them about the article, and they were just flabbergasted. They went to their investment advisor and said, "Get me out of this fund because I don't want to have that capital paid back to me."
So what was supposed to be a fund that would preserve its capital indefinitely and produce a dividend income on a monthly basis, instead of letting everybody know, hey, it's not performing the way we'd like it to, this is the actual distribution that we can give you every month while you preserve, without touching the capital, started dipping into the capital to pay everybody without telling them.
Yes. Well, it was in the
Dynamic.
fine print, they said.
Oh my,
So,
what?
and so anything that guarantees you a certain amount every single month is something that you need to watch out for. And that's why, and also this brings up a really important point, that for the last 20, 25 years, I'd say, a lot of people have abdicated the responsibility of their investments to those who they consider to be more financially literate. And so the financial world has gotten much more complicated over the last 20 years. And you really needed a finance degree to navigate through all of the options that were available. I think that's changing now. And I think there's tools because of financial innovation and technology that's changing. And you can really, you need to be financially literate yourself, but also you have the tools available now to be able to see. Oh, bless you. So, so we're entering, I think, a new financial paradigm in which you can get advice and you can get you have your team. If you become suddenly wealthy, you have a lawyer, you have a financial advisor, you have a CPA. Get their advice, but in the end, make your own decisions.
Well, it just goes to speak. Sure, if you don't have information and somebody is that you're looking to get advice from provides you a presentation, if you don't have a knowledge of your own, how can you either support, right, or dispute the information that this potential employee of yours is giving you is correct or not?
That's absolutely right.
Yeah, I think we should have a campaign for financial literacy, and I think in a lot of ways that's exactly what this series is intended to produce: thought-provoking processes to encourage each and every one of us to become financially literate, so that when we are out seeking the help or guidance that we need, it's not that we're dependent on them, is that we are collaborating with them.
Absolutely. And you should have trusted advisors. So even though you're not maybe wealthy right now, probably one of the best things that you can do in preparation for wealth that may be coming to you in the future is to vet a team that you can rely on for good advice. So maybe start to talk to a CPA, talk to them about tax issues. Find a investment advisor that you trust, that maybe someone has recommended to you, and start vetting those individuals for your team. And try to feel them out to see if you're compatible. It's not just a matter of them giving you advice, but also to find out if you see eye to eye on certain things, and of course it's going to be different for everybody depending on their age, their current income levels, and what their goals are going to be. But at least get the team in place, just kind of say, hey, look, I'd like to work with you. Maybe I'm not in a position to work with you now, but I may be in the future, and I just want to get a chance to meet and talk. And, find people that you can rely on and trust to give you good advice in the future.
Absolutely. So that all of you folks out there viewing know that aside from the actual episodes that Crytopolis and I will be posting here on Coil, there will also be subsequent videos. For instance, me interviewing a wealth manager, interviewing a tax attorney, with the kind of these are the questions to ask. This is what going out and interviewing your potential team could look like. Key differentiators, between brokers who are financial advisors and fiduciaries who are legally bound to serve your best interests as opposed to the interests of the firm they are representing. I'm really excited about this series, this being Crytopolis and I's first episode to you. I hope that you're able to glean something from this. We invite you to share this with all your friends. So as Twitter notices go out about these postings, please share, because this information is only meant to benefit the community. All boats rise. Why not have us all be able to be huge success stories and not be featured on one of those, these are the 15 crypto Twitter people that got rich and are broke 3 years after that type of, I don't want to be on one of those videos, man.
No, definitely not. And, so we ask for feedback too. So when you see the Twitter posts, we appreciate that. We like to be a part of the solution of, what happens when people can actually, become wealthy through their crypto investments. But remember that, time horizons are really, really different for everybody. And so you start thinking ahead of time. Think about, number one is how to control your emotions when you do become wealthy. Just a single news announcement. For example, today we had some announcements come out that were pretty huge about Ripple, the company, and how it might affect the XRP, the digital asset. And emotions are running high just on a news story.
Yeah, the price hasn't moved at all.
Yeah, and it's only the news. It isn't even there's nothing really happened except people are talking about it. But imagine what happens when the price does move higher, and all of a sudden we do start to get some real traction and utility in XRP. Those emotions are going to run very high. And so we want your feedback. We want to hear what you want to learn about. Also, when we start to do interviewing, we would love to get your feedback on the interviews. Anything that you think is important, we want to hear about.
Absolutely. We're a community. We're all in this together. As much as I enjoy being a member of this community, it's some of these relationships that are being forged as a direct result of, like, for instance, this particular endeavor, Beyond Moon. Crytopolis, I'm going to say this to you personally, for your volunteering your time to come do this series with me and help other people, I just think is, it's the real value add. It's a real value add for me to get to work with a man with your experience and your kind heart. What an incredible combination to get somebody who has a wealth of knowledge in the financial services industry, but also has like a heart of gold. And so thank you for taking your time. This is episode 1, folks. Look forward to many, many, many more episodes to come. Crytopolis, is there one last final note you want to add before we say goodbye?
Well, thank you, Jerry. That was very kind of you. And I do want to thank you as well for conceiving this project, because and when you brought it to me, I said, well, this is exactly what is needed. I think there's nothing like this available right now. And I said immediately, I think it's something that people need, and it's a worthwhile project. I'm very happy to be a part of. So thank you very much for conceiving it.
Right.
I'm very happy to be a part of it. We're going to go forward with it, and we hope people tune in. I think it's going to be a lot of valuable information between Jerry's experience and mine. We've got a lot to offer, and we hope you think the same. It's going to be very, very exciting, and I'm very excited to be part of it.
Well said. And until next time, folks, Cryptopolis and Jerry signing off. Remember, Beyond Moon is all about preparation. Till next time, Pura Vida.